Hey cutie. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Laura. Hi, hello, welcome. 2 looks, 1 palette using my Natasha Denona Safari palette. This is a beautiful all matte palette that has gone severely underloved in my collection. Not because I don't love it and don't reach for it, but I've just been focusing on other items in my collection over the past couple years with Pan Those Eyeshadows, Pan That Palette, No Pan Left Behind, and it really took away from wanting to use this in its entirety unless it was rolled into a project. So I just kind of wanted to give myself some permission to use this, incorporate it with some of the eyeshadows that are remaining from my No Pan Left Behind, which is why we have shimmer in the look you're seeing right now, and why we have shimmer in the first look that's going to go first, actually. So if you want just maybe some inspiration on using this palette, or maybe you just want something to watch and listen to, or if you want to maybe try your own way of doing this with shades that are in your collection, you by no means need the Natasha Denona Safari palette to come up with these looks. Use your own collection and just have fun with it. Maybe this will inspire you for some different color combinations. But let's just get into look number 1. There has been a piece of me that sat down today and decided to be adventurous, and I'm gonna try some stuff I don't normally do. And then I did pick out a couple shades from my singles that are still left to use, that I haven't used a single time in 2024. So I picked these 2 singles because they kind of go with the jacket, but I also kind of picked this one with the fact that there's a little bit of a base tone in it that's almost like a teal, like a little bit of a blue shift in there. So I kind of wanted to just do something a little bit out of my comfort zone, use some shades in my Safari palette that I don't often reach for organically, which is kind of these top region right there. So let's just slap some eyeshadow on my eyes. So I am going to actually use my LA Girl eyeliner as a base today. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm like a little, like, it's not really going with the green vibe, but I'm hoping that kind of layering everything together, it's going to make this all come together in a really cohesive way. All right, so I just kind of wanted to map the shape out that I wanted to go for today. And I'm really hoping I can accomplish what like the vision in my head is. I'm going to start with Fata Morgana. This is why I always typically do my eyeshadow first. All right, now I'm going to take Rhino on a very small blending brush, like very small. This is actually technically a paintbrush, but I really just want to do the very outer edges of Fata Morgana that we just put down. I'm not too worried about the blend like right over here because I know I'm going to go in with another shade, and also I'm going to layer more stuff on top of it, so it really doesn't bother me too much. After that shade, I'm going to put the gray, like the mid-tone gray, in, picking it up on a slightly larger brush, and then just starting the blend kind of like at a little bit more than midway point of the eye, blending inward just to soften that crease in the front. And I'm bringing that in towards this very front of the eye. All right, then I'm going to take a larger like blending brush, and I'm going to pick up Malia, the top nude shade, and then just use that to buff the very, very top portion to make all of these kind of melt into my skin tone. I'm going to take the shade Savannah on a domed brush, and this is going to go on my lower lash line. Where'd it go? Okay. All right, so that's every shade on the top row, actually. And then that's kind of where I'm going to halt things with this palette. And I'm going to move over to those two single eyeshadows that I have in this little singles palette. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually put a little more of this base shade down pretty lightly all over. All right, and then I have my two shades here. I have a Clionadh single in the shade Iron Gate, and then I have a Fantasy Cosmetica single in the shade Tomb. So Tomb and Iron Gate. I'm going to put one closer to the center of the lid. That's going to be the Fantasy Cosmetica shade. And then I'm going to put the darker Iron Gate from Clionadh closer to the outer corner of the lid. I just prefer laying down shimmers with a brush rather than my finger. But I hope you can see kind of the blue that's in that shade. And then going with a slightly smaller shader brush, I'm going to take the shade Tomb, which was that round shade from Fantasy Cosmetica, and I'm going to lay that in the front portion of the mobile lid. This Fantasy Cosmetica shade is a holographic multi-chrome from their Lost Library collection, so it kind of has a bit of like everything in it, which is why I feel like it's just so versatile in a look like this. I'm going to take a domed brush and just blend. It has nothing on it, but I just want to use it to blend the matte shade with the shimmer shade out on this outer portion of the lid. And that's really it. I am going to throw my eyeliners on. I have a espresso shade and a yellow shade. I just thought maybe the yellow would look really cool, kind of paired against the like dark navy and greenish that this has. So let me put these on real quick. So I don't have an inner corner shade, so I'm just going to use the one that's in my Pan That palette, just because I do always really appreciate an inner corner that's a little bright. That is the finished look, my first look with my Natasha Denona Safari palette with some singles just sprinkled in just for good measure. I really actually like this eye look quite a lot. I was not expecting to really appreciate this as much as I was. Honestly, I was expecting to be like, okay, this is definitely going to be way out of my comfort zone and something that I probably won't feel comfortable wearing. But I could definitely see myself wearing this to like a night out. Like Josh and I go to a lot of concerts, so I could definitely see this as like a concert makeup. That would be really cute, just like for a nice date night kind of thing. But I will see you in a couple seconds for look 2. So I am here for the second look. I want to do something with like the burgundies, the reds in this palette because I want to kind of use. So I'll show you them actually. I pulled out the shades I want to use from my singles collection. So I want to do something with like purples and reds going into those shades. I thought that would be really cute and really fun. So I'm going to start with Aya. It's the more like neutral yellow shade for like a skin tone shade that's my skin tone. So next I'm going to take the shade Lotus. I'm actually going to use the same brush because I want the remnants of that lightest shade kind of in there. And then I'm going to very lightly put that in the top portion of the crease. I really want this shade throughout the entirety of that crease. So I'm picking up tiny bits at a time, just tapping my brush into the shade and placing it where I want a little bit more. So I'm going to take the shade Amara. It's a light, almost like a terracotta and salmon mixed together. And I'm going to put that at just slightly lower in the crease than that first shade Lotus was. All right, I'm wiping my brush off and I'm going to go into the shade next to Amara, and that's Masai, and I'm going to put that on the more inner portion of the crease. So I'm doing one very light tap because this is a very impactful color. and I really don't want it to be too dark on the inner crease. Next, I'm going to go in with this brush from Morphe. This is an M434. I don't know if they still sell this, but it's kind of like a shader, but like a little bit fluffy. So it's going to make the next shade that I want to go into a little easier to blend. I'm going to go in with like the orangey red shade named Tribe. I'm going to pick that up, kind of loading it onto that brush there. And I'm going to put that on the outer corner. Just like that. Yeah, and now that I have that kind of just set down, I'm going to wipe this brush off, and I'm actually going to use the same brush and just blend the edges. That's why I wiped the brush off. So as it's picking up product, I'm not spreading that product all around. I'm kind of picking it up and removing it in a way. All right, and then I'm going to pick up the brush that I put the initial transition colors, and I'm going to pick a mixture of Amara and Lotus onto the bristles now, just because I want just a nice blend of those shades to blend out that shade Tribe. And then I'm going to take that very first shade, Aya, that was the skin tone shade, and I'm just going to use that again on the very corner, like the very outer edge of the shadow where the color is. Then what I'm going to do is take a like big domed brush. Mine looks stained with green. It's not, it is washed. I'm going to take Masai again and pick that up and place that just on the inner portion of where Tribe is on the mobile lid, because I want that look to transition into that plum. Now that we have that thrown down, I'm going to put some NYX Glitter Glue Glitter Primer on. All right, and then I have my single shadows that I picked out. I have two Clionadh in that rectangular packaging, and then I have a Colourpop single in the round packaging. The Colourpop shade is the shade Fluff. Yeah, I really like the pairing of like some really warm shades like that next to cool tone shades like purple. This looks cool, but it's going to look even cooler when we put the Clionadh shade on top of it that has more of a warm base. We're going to put this guy down here, which is Flashed Glass. Yeah, and hopefully you can see that like immediately it's a little bit more red toned. It brings it more to the warm purple region. All right, and now that that's laid down, I'm going to take a mixture of Lotus and Aya. Those were the first two shades initially laid. And I'm going to put that right on the transition area of that very beginning of the crease right here. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put a bit of Voodoo. That is the darkest shade, or the darkest like plum tone shade. I'm going to lay that down first on my lower lash line. This is really, really deep dark though. So really I'm only going to put it right as close as I can get. I already have so much fallout on my under eyes from the purples on the side. I'm sure you can see. So I'm going to take Aya and then just blend that out in a way. And then I'll take a big fluffy brush and sweep as much as I can away. Then I'm going to take a combination of Lotus and Masai, the cooler tones of purpley shade in the palette, and I'm going to blend out Voodoo on the lower lash line, just making it a little bit more plummy. And then the last thing I want to do is on my lower lash line, I'm going to put the shade here, Abrasion, which is just really fun, and it has a very deep base to it. So I really just wanted to highlight that on the lower lash line in like the center portion of the lower lash line. And I'm going to do right in the center of the lower lash line. Just to give it some fun dimension there. And then again, since there's no real like inner corner super inner corner shade for me in the Natasha Denona palette. I am just going to go in with my Pan That palette for my inner corner shade. This is the one I've been using day in and day out since I frankened the shade together. This is the finished look using my Natasha Denona Safari palette along with a couple of my purple singles. I've really been enjoying the versatility of different color combinations using this Natasha Denona palette in combination with some of the shades that I just have left in my No Pan Left Behind. I would not have normally paired like the red tones with the burgundies in this palette, let alone paired it with a purple shimmer on the lid. But I feel so pretty in this look right now, honestly. This is very out there, yes, but I feel like this is just a really beautiful look, in all honesty. I think it complements my eye color and my, just in general, my coloring, but I think that this is just so pretty, and I think it just goes to show that you don't have to just like stick with the rose. I mean, for the most part, I did stick with the row in this look. However, you really can just mix and match and just kind of choose your own adventure, so to speak, when it comes to a palette like this. I'm really happy that I did reach into this for a couple more looks, and I really want to start doing more 2 looks incorporating palettes more often. I know I started them a while ago, doing them more often, and I got away from them, but I want to bring them back and just kind of use my collection more in its entirety. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're staying healthy, sane, and safe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!